I took my dog in for an ultrasound, and the vet confirmed she was pregnant. But then he frowned at the screen. "This fetus," he said slowly. "Why does it look human?" Strawberry lay on the exam table, completely still. Her black and white fur was sleek, glossy, almost expensive looking. Unlike most dogs who panic at the vet, Strawberry didn't fight at all. She was being held in place, but she didn't struggle. It was like she understood we were trying to fix whatever was wrong inside her. We didn't even have to strap her down. 2 nurses in scrubs gently held her legs on either side while she stared up at the ceiling with wide, unblinking eyes. Strawberry is an Alaskan Malamute, peach face type, about a year and a half old, nearly 90 pounds. When she stands on her hind legs, she's basically eye level with me. As a single woman living in the city, walking Strawberry at night felt safer than carrying pepper spray. Nobody messes with a dog that size. 2 days before all of this, she'd bolted out the door. I searched everywhere, frantic, convinced someone had taken her. Then, just as I was losing hope, Strawberry came back on her own. But something about it was off. After 2 days missing on the streets, she was spotless. Too spotless. No mud. No tangles. No burrs caught in her coat. She was fluffy and clean and smelled faintly like she'd been groomed. At first, I didn't think much of it. She acted normal. Ate fine. Played a little. Then, about a month later, her belly started swelling like a balloon. She got lethargic, sweet, clingy, tired all the time. She sprawled on the floor for hours and stopped eating the way she used to. I thought she was sick, so I took her to the nearest clinic. The vet palpated her abdomen and frowned. She might be pregnant. I let out a shaky breath. Okay. Not something worse. Good. Then anger surged up so fast it made my hands tremble. My baby had been out there alone for 2 days. Anything could have happened. Strawberry rarely went out of my sight. The only dog she ever interacted with regularly was a neighbor's golden retriever, and even then, we kept them on tight leashes. I was strict about it. Strawberry and that golden were just buddies. Which left only one explanation: those 2 missing days. "Doc," I asked, stroking Strawberry's drooping head, "is she really pregnant?" "Let's do an ultrasound," he said. The nurses lifted her onto the table. I leaned close and whispered, "It's okay. Mama's here. Don't move." While the vet prepared the gel, I found myself silently bargaining with the universe. Please let it be another Malamute. Or at least a Husky. I can handle an awkward mix. Just let her be okay. The screen flickered to life. "Confirmed," the vet said, eyes fixed on the monitor. "She's pregnant." I swallowed hard. I knew it. Then his expression changed. "That's odd," he murmured. "Odd how?" My stomach tightened. He hesitated, sliding the probe across Strawberry's shaved belly, gaze locked on the image. "This fetus." "What?" I whispered. He looked at me, then back at the screen, like he didn't want to say it out loud. "Why does it look like a human?" I froze. "Excuse me?" He turned the monitor slightly so I could see. In the grainy black and white static was a shape: rounded head, torso, 4 curled limbs tucked close. It looked unmistakably humanoid. My throat went dry. I couldn't speak. The vet let out a short, uneasy laugh. "First time I've ever seen something like this. But dogs can't carry humans. That's not how biology works." He waved a hand like he could physically brush the idea away. "Ultrasounds can be tricky. Shadows. Angles. Coincidence. Dogs have heads and limbs too. It's probably just the position." The nurses nodded like they'd seen weird scans before, and this was just another Tuesday. I forced myself to breathe. Of course it's impossible, I told myself. There are boundaries nature doesn't cross. Whatever happened during those 2 days, it couldn't be that. This was just my fear talking. So I took Strawberry home and treated her like royalty. Her belly kept growing. Sometimes she'd gag and throw up, especially in the mornings. The vet told me it could happen. "It's normal," he said. "Some mammals get morning sickness." I started driving her to a larger park farther from my apartment complex, hoping fresh air and open space might lift her mood. She didn't run much anymore, but she seemed calmer out there. Then one afternoon, at that park, a man walked straight toward me. Tall. Clean-cut. Good-looking in a sharp, almost curated way. But his eyes were cold, flat, like he was already angry before he even spoke. "That's my dog," he said. His voice wasn't a question. It was a command. "Give her back." He wore a Nike jacket and carried a backpack. His sneakers looked like limited editions, expensive enough that he didn't have to check the price tag twice in his life. He looked young, maybe mid-20s, like a student from the nearby university. I tightened my grip on the leash. "This is my dog." He paused, gaze flicking between me and Strawberry like he was measuring something. "Yours?" he repeated, suspicious. "Yes. You've got the wrong dog." He stared at Strawberry with a level of focus that made my skin crawl, like she wasn't an animal, like she was evidence. "I don't make mistakes," he said. "I know her. That's my dog." "Listen," I snapped, "this is Strawberry. I've raised her since she was a puppy. She's been with me for a year and a half." He didn't argue. He just went quiet. Then he crouched and reached toward her. Strawberry flinched so hard she nearly backed out of her collar. She scrambled behind my legs, lips pulled back, teeth bared. A deep, guttural growl vibrated in her throat. She was terrified of him. Not defensive. Not territorial. Terrified. My heart lurched, and something clicked into place. The missing 2 days. The spotless fur. The faint smell of grooming. "Wait," I said, the word coming out sharper than I intended. "She went missing a while back." 2 days. Did you find her?" His face didn't change much, but something in his jaw tightened. After a tense back and forth, he admitted it. "I found her wandering," he said, in a tone that sounded like he'd practiced it. "I thought she was a stray. I took her home, fed her. Then she ran off again." A misunderstanding? Maybe. But he kept glancing at her swollen belly like he couldn't help himself. My throat tightened. I decided to test him. "My dog came back pregnant," I blurted. "Do you have a dog? What breed?" For the first time, his expression twitched. Just a fraction. He looked genuinely startled, like the words hit somewhere they weren't supposed to. "She's pregnant?" he repeated. "Yes." For a split second, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Then he smoothed his face back into something neutral. "I don't have a dog. She probably got pregnant by a stray when she ran out." He didn't give me his name. Didn't explain why he'd approached me like that in the first place. He just turned and walked away fast, like he wanted to be gone before I could ask anything else. I told myself he was just a weird, rich guy who'd tried to play Good Samaritan and got possessive. I had no idea how wrong I was. 3 months passed. A normal dog pregnancy is about 2 months, around 63 days. Strawberry should have had puppies already. Instead, she was massive. I took her back to the vet. He ran the ultrasound again, and his confusion didn't even pretend to be professional this time. "This is really strange," he muttered. I stared at the monitor. There it was again. One single curled-up baby-like shape. Not a litter. Not multiple tiny forms. One. It looked like a human infant tucked into itself. "Doc," I said, voice shaking, "that looks like a person." He shifted the probe lower. The angle changed. Now the head looked a little pointier. Less round. Less human. More like a snout. "Dogs have a bicornuate uterus," he said, tapping the screen. "Sometimes the imaging can distort things. From this angle, it doesn't look like a human head." "And why only one?" I demanded. "Dogs have litters. Why is she only carrying one?" "Singletons happen," he said with a shrug that felt more like surrender. "Rare, but possible." He hesitated, then added carefully, "If you're worried, we can do a C-section. Remove it early. But it's risky. And expensive." "Expensive how?" "A couple $1,000. My stomach sank. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I could barely afford premium dog food, let alone emergency surgery. The vet sighed. Then we wait for labor. If something's wrong, we deal with it then. So we waited. Another month passed. 4 months total. Double what it should have been. Summer hit. My mom came to stay with me for a month while I worked my 9 to 5. She watched Strawberry during the day. I installed a webcam in the living room, aimed right at Strawberry's dog bed. By then, Strawberry looked like she was carrying a boulder. She barely moved. She lay on the floor, breathing heavy, exhausted like her body was trying to hold up something it wasn't built to hold. Late June, I checked the camera feed from my office. Strawberry was thrashing in her bed, making a sound I'd never heard from her before, raw, panicked, desperate. My chest clenched. I called my mom immediately. Go home. Now. Mom didn't ask questions. She dropped whatever she was doing and rushed back. I was still staring at the live feed, trying to think through how we could get a 100-pound dog to an emergency clinic fast, when Strawberry arched and let out one final, awful cry. And then, something red and wet slid out onto the bedding. She gave birth. I shot up from my desk, heart hammering, hands shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. Finally, I whispered at the screen, half relief, half horror. What is that? My mother screamed. Not a joyful scream. Pure terror that ripped straight through the phone speaker. My mom didn't just scream once. She screamed again, higher, like her lungs had forgotten how to breathe and decided to panic instead. On my phone screen, the living room looked like it had tilted. The camera was still pointed at Strawberry's bed like always, except nothing felt normal anymore. Strawberry lay on her side, chest heaving, her huge belly suddenly. Not huge. Not the tight balloon it had been for months. It was softer, slack, like all that impossible weight had finally left her. And in front of her bed, on the cheap rug I'd bought because it matched the couch, there was something small and red and wet, barely moving. What is it? I shouted at my screen, standing so fast my chair rolled back and slammed into the cubicle wall. People turned. Somebody asked if I was okay. I didn't answer. My mom's hands were shaking so hard the picture vibrated as she reached into frame. Moon, she whispered into the phone, using the nickname she'd given me as a kid when she thought it made me feel safer. Don't come home. Don't. She cut off with a choke. Because the thing on the rug moved. Not like a puppy. Not like anything I'd ever seen an animal give birth to. It was small, so small it looked unreal, like a doll you'd win from a claw machine. But it wasn't stiff plastic. It was warm and alive and twitching in jerky little bursts, and when it turned its head, I saw a face. Tiny closed eyelids. A mouth that opened and closed like it was searching for air. I didn't hear the sound through the camera mic at first. Just my mom's horrified breathing. Then the camera picked it up. A thin, squeaky cry, too sharp to be a whine, too broken to be a bark. A baby sound. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might actually pass out at my desk. Mom, I said, and my voice cracked. Don't touch it. I already did. Her voice was trembling. Moon, it's not. It's not a puppy. No kidding. In the corner of the frame, Strawberry lifted her head weakly. Her eyes were open, glassy, exhausted. She looked like she'd run a marathon and then been hit by a truck. And still, even in that wrecked state, she tried to nuzzle forward. Like she was checking on it. Like she knew. Strawberry, my mom sobbed. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. I didn't remember walking. I just remember my phone still connected, my boss's voice fading behind me, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped my keys twice before I made it out of the building. The drive home was a blur of red lights and people honking and my heart hammering in my ears like a warning siren. By the time I got to my apartment, my mom had already wrapped the tiny thing in a dish towel and placed it in the old gym bag I kept in the closet. I didn't even question why. Instinct, maybe. Some ancient part of her that went, this is a living thing. Keep it warm. Keep it contained. Move. Strawberry lay limp in her bed, blood still slowly pooling beneath her, her breathing shallow and frantic. When she saw me, her tail thumped once, weak, like she was trying to say, I did it. I came back. I'm still here. My chest hurt. My eyes burned. I knelt beside her and put my forehead against hers. You're okay, I whispered, even though I didn't believe it. You're gonna be okay. Behind me, the gym bag shifted. A faint, needy squeak. I whipped around so fast I nearly fell over. My mom's face was chalk white. We have to go, she said. Now. She needs a hospital and that needs. She couldn't even say the word. I couldn't either. I grabbed the leash with one hand, slid my arms under Strawberry's massive body with the other, and realized I couldn't lift her alone. She was 90 pounds on a good day, and right now she was dead weight and pain. So my mom and I did what you do when your brain is short-circuiting and your love for something is bigger than your fear. We used a bedsheet like a stretcher. We got Strawberry into the car first, her head lolling, tongue hanging out, eyes half closed. Then my mom shoved the gym bag into my lap like it was a bomb. The bag moved again. That tiny cry came out, muffled by fabric. I stared down at it, my mouth dry. Mom, I whispered. Tell me you saw what I saw. She didn't look at me. She kept staring forward like if she moved her eyes, reality would collapse. Drive, she said. Just drive. The closest place was the same veterinary clinic from before. We burst through the doors like a scene from a disaster movie. Help! I screamed. My dog, please, she's bleeding, she just gave birth. The receptionist's eyes widened. 2 techs rushed out with a gurney. They pulled Strawberry from the back seat and wheeled her away while I stood in the lobby shaking, clutching the gym bag to my chest like a lifeline. The vet ran up, glanced at Strawberry, and his face tightened. Possible uterine rupture, he snapped. Prep surgery. Now. Then he saw me. Or rather, he saw what I was holding. What's in the bag? He asked. My hands wouldn't unclench. I need you to look at something. My mom made a noise that sounded like a prayer and a curse at the same time. I opened the bag. The towel inside shifted. And there it was. A tiny, wrinkled body. 4 limbs. Fingers. A head that looked wrong, somehow. A little too pointed. A little too narrow. But the face was still, God, it was still a face. Not a muzzle. Not a snout. Not anything you could pretend was just a weird puppy. The vet took 1 step back like I'd pulled out a snake. Holy, he started. I heard someone behind the counter gasp. Another tech whispered, no way. My lips were numb. Tell me what it is. The vet stared, eyes darting, pupils blown wide. That's a baby. My entire body went cold. No, I croaked. It can't be. She's a dog. He swallowed. His hands were shaking now too. I don't know what the hell is happening, he said, voice low, furious and afraid at once. But you need to take that across the street. Human hospital. Now. Across the street was a private medical center. The kind with shiny glass doors and a fountain that always looked too clean. I'd walked past it 100 times and never thought it would matter. Now I sprinted toward it with my mom, holding a towel wrapped, living nightmare against my chest while my dog bled on an operating table behind us. A nurse stopped us at the entrance. I didn't even speak like a normal person. Words fell out of me like debris. My dog, this, please. My mom grabbed the nurse's wrist, hard. Her voice came out sharp and steady in a way I didn't recognize. The baby needs a doctor, she said. Now. The nurse's eyes dropped to the bundle in my arms. Her face changed. Professional mask on, panic underneath. Within minutes, we were in pediatrics. The baby, the thing, was taken from me and placed under lights and monitors. I stood there frozen while doctors moved around it like bees, speaking in quick medical terms that didn't make my brain feel better. All I could see was how small it was. Not premature small. Not tiny newborn small. Too small. Like it had been made in a hurry. One doctor turned to us. Where is the mother? My mouth opened. Nothing came out. My mom answered instead. She's in surgery. At the vet clinic. The doctor blinked. The vet clinic? I tried again, voice shaking. My dog gave birth. Silence. Not the awkward kind. The "are you serious right now" kind. Then the doctor sighed, tight and controlled. Okay, he said slowly, like you say to someone who might be in shock. We'll focus on the infant. Please wait outside. So we waited. On a hard bench under fluorescent lights, while my world cracked open. An hour later, Strawberry survived surgery. The vet called and told me they had to remove her uterus. That she'd lost too much blood. That she would need careful monitoring. That she was alive. I started crying right there in the hospital hallway. Big, ugly sobs that I couldn't stop. Because for a moment, that was the only thing I could understand, my dog was alive. The baby was alive too. And that was the part my brain kept refusing to hold. When the pediatrician finally came out, he wore the kind of smile doctors use when they're trying to keep you from collapsing. She's stable, he said. She? I repeated automatically. He nodded. Very low birth weight. Head shape is unusual. Some organ development concerns. We'll need to keep her in an incubator and monitor her. My mom exhaled like she'd been holding her breath since I was born. I didn't feel relief. I felt dread. Because stable didn't explain anything. And a dog didn't give birth to a human baby. Not in any universe that made sense. Over the next day, we told the story 100 times. To nurses. To doctors. To a social worker who looked like she'd already decided we were lying. To another doctor who listened with polite patience and then asked if I'd ever experienced hallucinations before. Nobody believed us. Not until I remembered the camera. The footage. I nearly tripped over my own feet rushing back home, pulling up the file, scrubbing through until I found it, Strawberry screaming, thrashing, pushing, and then the moment something slid out, tiny and wet, and my mom's hands shaking as she reached for it. The camera wasn't close enough for perfect detail, but it was clear enough. Clear enough to make the pediatrician's face drain of color when I shoved my phone into his hand. Clear enough for him to call in 2 other doctors. Clear enough for them to stare at each other and whisper, "How is that possible?" The footage got sent to IT. They ran it through every authenticity test they could think of. No edits. No overlays. No obvious manipulation. The video was real. And suddenly, the hospital wasn't treating us like crazy people anymore. They treated us like a problem. Like something that could get the wrong kind of attention. They moved the baby into a private room. They assigned extra staff. They started running tests. Then a genetics specialist came in with a report. A middle-aged guy with glasses and a name badge that said Dr. Lu Chen. He was calm in a way that made my skin crawl. Like this was interesting instead of horrifying. He set the report in my hands and said, gently, "Skip to the last page." I flipped until my fingers found the end. And there it was, in clinical, cold language. The sample does not match human genetic profiles. My brain stalled. What? I whispered. Dr. Chen adjusted his glasses. According to sequencing and comparison databases, this appears to belong to a rare primate species. Extremely uncommon. Sometimes called the hairless ape. My mom frowned. What? He launched into an explanation about a species that lived far away, near rivers and forests. About how their infants could resemble humans at a glance, especially to people who weren't specialists. I stared at the incubator through the glass. The baby's head did look pointed. The skin tone was odd, grayish-red, like a bruise that never fully faded. Dr. Chen's voice was soft. Appearance can mislead. Genetics do not. A wave of relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. Not a human. Not my responsibility in the way I'd been afraid of. Not whatever my mind had been spiraling toward at night when I couldn't sleep. But even as relief spread, another thought stabbed through it. How did my dog give birth to a rare primate? How did any of this happen? The hospital administration stepped in fast after that. They said the infant, the primate infant, was protected. That it couldn't be privately cared for. That it would be transferred to the proper authorities. I should have been grateful. Instead, something felt wrong. Too smooth. Too quick. Too convenient. And then, 2 days later, I ran into the guy again. Not Dr. Chen. The one from the park. Tall. Clean-cut. Cold-eyed. The one who had looked at Strawberry like she was a lab specimen and said, "That's my dog." The moment I remembered his face, every hair on my body stood up. I went back to that park every day after work. I waited. And waited. Nothing. No cold-eyed stranger. No answers. So I did something I never imagined I'd do in my life. I snuck onto the nearby university campus. I paid a student for temporary access, wandered into the library during finals week, and hunted through rows of stressed-out kids until I saw him. Not the cold-eyed guy. Another one. Young. Pale. Single-lidded eyes. Nike jacket. Expensive sneakers. The same guy. He was sitting at a long table, switching between a textbook and his phone, chatting in some group called something like Life Sciences Special Interest. I got close enough to see the name on his student ID before he noticed me. Evan Wu. Biology department. When he turned, his expression sharpened instantly. "What are you doing?" I forced a smile that felt like it might crack my teeth. "Can I ask you something?" He tried to brush past me. I followed him out onto the lawn. "You found my dog," I said. "When she went missing." He shrugged. "I told you. I thought she was a stray." "And now she gave birth," I said, watching his face. "To something that wasn't a puppy." The tiniest twitch crossed his mouth. "Just enough." I leaned closer. "Did you do something to her?" His eyes went flat. "You're being weird." I pulled out my phone. Showed him a picture of the baby's tiny hand next to my mom's thumb for scale. The pointed head. The human-like face. His pupils expanded. He swallowed. Then he snapped the mask back on. "That's fake." "It's not." My voice came out low and shaking. "And if you don't tell me what you did, I'm going to start talking to people who can make you regret being born." He stared at me for a long moment, like he was deciding whether I was dangerous. Then he said, quietly, "I didn't implant anything." My heart slammed. "Then what did you do?" His jaw tightened. "I injected something. A biological agent." "What does that mean?" "It changes uterine receptivity," he said like I should understand. "Makes the environment more compatible." Compatible? With what? I felt sick. "I didn't have an embryo," he insisted quickly, hands lifting as if to swear an oath. "I was going to bring her back to the lab, but she got away. I lost her. I thought it was over." I stared at him, shaking. "So you did experiment on her?" His face hardened. "I thought she was a stray." "You thought wrong." I grabbed his shirt collar before I could stop myself. "My dog almost died. We spent thousands. My mother almost had a heart attack. And a baby came out of her." He flinched. "I'll pay," he blurted. "I'll pay? Just don't make this public." And because I wasn't rich, because I was drowning in bills, because Strawberry's recovery was going to cost more than my rent, I did the thing I hated myself for. I let him pay. He transferred $60,000 on the spot, hands shaking like he knew he deserved worse. Then, as I was putting my phone away, he froze. "Wait," he said. "What?" His eyes narrowed, thoughtful now, not scared. "They said it was a hairless ape?" "That's what the genetic report says," I snapped. "So what?" He took my phone out of my hand again and stared at the report photo I'd saved. His face changed. Slowly. Like a person watching a trap close. "This report," he said, voice tight, "looks altered." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" He looked up at me, eyes sharp. "Do you know what a newborn primate looks like? Even rare ones?" "No." He pulled up images on his phone and shoved it in my face. A tiny primate infant. Red, fragile, small, but unmistakably animal. The proportions were different. The face structure was different. The vibe was different. I looked back at the photo on my phone. And suddenly, the horrible truth started to creep in like a shadow under a door. That baby, Evan whispered. That looked like a baby. Like a human baby. My mouth went dry. I didn't even realize I was running until I was already moving. I barreled into the hospital, down the pediatric hallway, straight into the private room. And stopped dead. The equipment was gone. The incubator was empty. I grabbed the first nurse I saw. Where is she? Where is the baby we brought in? The nurse recognized me and sighed like she was tired of my face. Dr. Chen transferred it. To where? She shrugged. He said it was being handed over. Wildlife authorities. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I turned and sprinted toward genetics. They told me Dr. Chen had left the building. Left. Like he'd been waiting for the right moment to disappear. And in the middle of my panic, my phone rang. Mom. I answered with shaking hands. Mom? Her voice hit me like a punch. Moon, she cried. Strawberry is gone. Everything inside me shattered. What do you mean, gone? I was walking her, my mom said, words tumbling out. She was feeling better, she wanted to move, and this woman started yelling at me. She said she was scared of dogs. She started a scene, and in the chaos, Strawberry had been tied to a tree. And when my mom turned back, the leash was empty. They had taken her. They had taken my dog. My legs gave out. I slid down the hallway wall until I was sitting on cold tile, staring at nothing. On the outside, it looked like two separate nightmares, a stolen dog and a missing infant. But in my gut, they clicked together like puzzle pieces. Somebody had used my dog. Somebody had created something inside her. And now they were cleaning up their mess. I ran to the police station. I told them everything. The ultrasound. The birth. The hospital. The hairless ape report. The missing infant. The stolen dog. The student's confession about injecting Strawberry. The officer stared at me like I'd walked in covered in glitter and demanded a spaceship. He repeated my story back to me in a flat voice, emphasizing the ridiculous parts like he couldn't help himself. Then he told me to leave. It was one of the worst moments of my life, not because it was scary, but because it was humiliating. Like the world had decided I didn't deserve help because my tragedy sounded too insane to be true. That night, I sat on my living room floor where Strawberry's bed used to be and cried until I couldn't breathe. And then I got angry. The kind of anger that makes you cold. I called Evan Wu. This is on you, I said. You started this. He went quiet. I kept going. You're going to find me someone who can track them. Someone real. A private investigator. A professional. You can't, he started. Yes, I can, I said, voice like steel. Because if you don't, I'll make sure your university knows what you did. I'll make sure the internet knows. I'll make sure your name follows you forever. He swallowed. Fine. 2 days later, I was sitting in an investigator's office, replaying the camera footage while a man with tired eyes took notes like he'd seen every flavor of human cruelty. He didn't laugh. He didn't roll his eyes. He just said, okay. Let's work backwards. He mapped out Strawberry's missing days. He traced locations around my apartment complex. He focused on one thing that made my stomach twist. The private hospital across the street had a fertility department. IVF. Embryos. Things you couldn't access unless you were inside. Your dog didn't create a human fetus, he said bluntly. But if someone implanted an embryo into an animal after altering its environment. My skin crawled. Then your dog was used as an incubator, he finished. I wanted to throw up. We waited. The investigator watched. His assistant tailed Dr. Chen, caught him visiting a lab that didn't appear on any official directory, meeting with people who never wore hospital badges. Then the investigator called the police again, this time not as a distraught dog owner, but as a professional with evidence. Photos. Timelines. Names. And suddenly, everything moved fast. Fast like it had always been possible, it just needed the right person to push the door. The hospital was raided. Staff were questioned. A doctor admitted, finally, what my bones had been screaming for weeks. After Strawberry escaped Evan Wu's apartment, someone brought her into the fertility clinic as a spontaneous experiment. They implanted a human embryo, one that had been created for a patient, one that never should have been touched, and waited to see what would happen. When Strawberry escaped again, they lost their experiment. When she gave birth and the news hit the hospital, they panicked. They forged a report. They labeled the infant as a protected animal to justify removing it quickly. And when they realized I wasn't letting it go, when they realized I'd found Evan and started asking questions, they stole Strawberry back. Because they wanted the only animal that had ever carried the embryo long enough to survive. The only success they'd had. Dr. Chen was arrested. So were others. And one afternoon, 2 weeks after I'd hit rock bottom, I heard a knock on my door. When I opened it, a police officer stood in the hallway holding a leash. Strawberry was at the end of it. She looked thinner. Tired. But alive. The moment she saw me, her whole body lit up like a sun breaking through clouds. She surged forward, pressed her head against my legs, whining softly like she couldn't believe she was home. I dropped to my knees and wrapped my arms around her, sobbing into her fur. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." Strawberry licked my face, warm and frantic, like she was saying, "Stop. Stop. I'm here." Behind her, the officer cleared his throat. "She'll need follow-up care," he said. "But she's safe now." I couldn't stop shaking. "And the baby?" I asked, voice barely audible. His expression shifted, professional, careful. "The infant is in protective custody," he said. "Medical oversight. Arrangements are being made." Is she okay?" My throat tightened. He hesitated, and that pause told me everything. Complicated. Fragile. A life that began in a place it never should have. "She's alive," he said finally. "That's what I can tell you." Later, when the dust settled, the story exploded. It hit local news. Then national. Then international corners of the internet where people argued like it was a movie plot instead of my life. The government cracked down on shady fertility clinics. Regulations tightened. Investigations opened. Evan Wu got disciplinary action from his university and was banned from research work. He wrote some apology letter that read like a kid who finally realized science wasn't a video game. And officials came to my apartment, serious people, quiet people, who took blood samples from Strawberry and warned me to report anyone who ever tried to access her again. They didn't take her away. They let her stay with me. Because she wasn't evidence to me. She was my family. Life didn't magically become normal after that, not really. Normal is a word you don't trust once you've lived through something that shouldn't exist. But it became steady again. And when I needed money, real money, after months of bills and time off work, someone approached me with an offer that felt ridiculous until I realized the world already knew Strawberry's name. A media company wanted me to do pet live streams. "People are obsessed with her," the woman told me over the phone, like she was pitching a makeup brand deal. "She's iconic." It sounded insane. Then I looked at Strawberry lying in her bed, head on her paws, eyes following me like she'd been doing since she was a puppy. And I thought, she fought her way home. Maybe we deserved something good. So I signed. Now, every day, I take Strawberry to the park. We walk under open sky instead of fluorescent lights. She trots beside me like a queen in a fur coat, tail high, ears alert, still the toughest girl on any sidewalk. Sometimes people recognize her. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they stare a little too long. But Strawberry doesn't care. She looks up at me, tongue lolling, warm breath on my hand, like she's reminding me of the only truth that matters. She came back. And when the sun starts to dip and the air turns cool, I lean down and whisper into her fur, the same words I used to say before the world got weird. "Come on, Strawberry," I murmur. "Let's go home." And she answers like she always has. A happy, steady sound. Woof.